At first, I wanted to make this episode about my adventures in Bali, because in the 3 months that I've spent here, I worked with Melina and Lena on their video, filmed the band Tora, and got asked if I wanted to join a film crew on their documentary about dance and culture around the world. Working with Lena on her video allowed me to adventure in Bali, make new friends and collect footage. Filming Tora brought me back to my roots, because making videos for musicians is how I got started. And then being asked to film a legitimate and professional documentary which will air on Netflix was a cherry on top, and it gave me a sense of purpose. In retrospect, everything unfolded out nicely for me because I made the decision to simply go see if there's something out there. All the new friends I made are incredibly talented and awesome people. So why isn't this episode about that? It's because there are literally 100,000 travel videos like that already. They have a word for
the frustration of photographing something amazing when thousands of identical photos already exist.
It's called femudalon. So why make something that has already been done before? Instead, this episode marks the beginning of a larger project I have in mind for the future. I interviewed Instagrammers, photographers, and the co-founder of Kapten Son and talked to them about what it means to be free. I wanted to make this a special episode. On June 2nd in 2016, Melina threw a birthday/goodbye party. She was leaving to Bali to live and work there. I didn't understand why a graphic designer such as Melina would move to Bali. Like, what kind of work would she find there? When I asked her, she said, "Tiago, just come see for yourself." She told me there are so many creative freelancers living there from around the world. I imagine people on laptops and waterfalls. 213 days later, I find myself taking a leap of faith. I arrived in Southeast Asia, and that's when I met them. The people who travel and work. They make money completely location independent. This was big for me. I did not know this was possible. So I asked myself, who are they? I think in today's age, we have what's necessary to create our own personalized career and to pursue our individual human potential. First, what is a digital nomad? As a kid, I grew up in Tunisia and I learned about the nomads of North Africa. My first encounter with nomads was in the Sahara Desert when I was there with my family. My parents had to explain to me that these people have a home that they take with them wherever they go. Their tent amazed me, and I felt confused about why these people do this. So I learned that they raise livestock such as sheep, which they need to move around to a new place after they've eaten up everything. These people depend on their animals.
This is the life of nomad people, the wanderers who live with their flocks under the open sky.
So nomad is a word for somebody who wanders for pasture. What if I scratch that last bit and replace it with something contemporary? Like Wi-Fi. Okay, so this makes a lot of sense already. Let's categorize this further into 3 types. Freelancers, consultants, and founders. Freelancers can range anywhere from content creators such as photographers to web developers to journalists. Consultants can help any business around the world with just emails and Skype calls and traveling to speak at conferences. And founders, aka entrepreneur. So, as an entrepreneur, if you are currently unemployed and you do not have $10,000 of savings, go to Bali, it's cheap. If you are employed and you want to leave your daily routine and start fresh somewhere else, and you like bathrooms without roofs, go to Bali. If you don't have a product to launch, go to Bali, maybe you'll find inspiration. But if you do have a product to launch and you don't have potential investors, stay at home and work your ass off to get those investors. But what if you're just open to building your startup away from friends, family, and distractions? It doesn't have to be Bali, but you get the gist of it. Anyways, I think my point is pretty clear. But do you have what it takes? Here's my recipe. 1 functioning laptop, PC, or Mac, doesn't matter. It has to have good battery life. 3 cups of a skill you have or want to improve on. 2 cups of self-discipline. 4 very good friends to be there for when shit doesn't go right. And a pinch of recklessness. Hey, not so much. You don't want to be too reckless. And depending on your flavor, your weapon of choice. camera, pen, paper, words, voice recorder, tripod, your sexy booty, an eye for fashion, editing software, coding, Java, HTML, knowledge, and of course,
Wi-Fi.
Okay, I'm going to stop this right here. This is not about how to be a digital nomad, it's about being a digital nomad. I would like to introduce you to the Neverland Boys. They've been friends since they're children, and together they've been traveling the world and taking photos and selling that content to brands. When did you guys feel like you could make some money with Instagram?
We didn't realize that we could actually make it a living until a couple months later when we started getting a couple of free trips and some people wanted to pay us for our photos and stuff.
So how much time goes between taking a picture to getting it edited and ready to post?
We realized that we hadn't really had a day off since we started it, which was about 14 months ago, because if you're not producing content for a client, then you're producing content for yourself. And when you're shooting all day and then editing for when you get home until you fall asleep without noticing it, you kind of end up working all day, every day.
And it's true, I've seen these guys shoot all day, and then when the light wasn't optimal, they go inside the living room and edit as much as they could.
I think commitment is the biggest thing.
And they think that everybody can do the same thing.
If they really want that lifestyle, then they'll find a way to make it happen. And the best way to learn is from personal experience, I reckon.
And I also called my friend Melina. She arrived in Bali as a graphic designer, but soon noticed that photography is something that she would love to indulge in. She started taking pictures for bikini brands and other influencers, and quickly made a name for herself in Bali.
I was still working for a couple of companies back home, just doing graphics. I came here in the first 2 months. We did a couple of redesigns for restaurants, and by accident kind of started the whole photo thing for Tequila with Lena, and I just noticed that is just so much more fun.
See, so what I got from that is that she didn't know exactly what it was going to be, but she came to Bali to be a graphic designer and ended up becoming a photographer.
Traveling really is the only thing that you can buy with money that will make you richer.
That is so true. I feel like there's a certain mentality that these people share. People who go out and just try something.
I see it when I hang out with those people that do the exact same thing. You feel connected, you feel like you want the same in life.
You become naturally motivated. And when you're naturally motivated, you're gonna do what's required.
Except the fact of the constant unknown. You can never know exactly what's gonna happen.
I also interviewed a brand that hires content creators like Melina and the Neverland Boys. They created a strong brand name within 3 years and quickly became an inspiration icon on Instagram. I spoke to Adi Weisbeck, one of the co-founders of Kapten Son, and we spoke about freedom and what it means to be a freelancer.
Really, it's control of your time. Classical 9-to-5 workplace is now very, very old, and it's not the most productive, and it's not what makes people most happy. So that's why freelancing is a natural hunger for flexibility and freedom and control of your own time, and therefore it is the way to go.
Why isn't everybody doing it? It's probably because it's not as easy. So I asked him what it takes to be a digital nomad, or in this case, a freelancer.
It takes courage and it takes skill.
Okay, he just said courage.
Courage is when it isn't natural to you, when you're really afraid, but you kind of push yourself into the situation and the mind follows.
Huh. To me, that sounds a lot like what Melina said about embracing the unknown. Okay, so I know that this is a big topic and there's a lot to cover here, but I have the feeling that I'm getting onto something already. It means that you have to embrace not knowing what's gonna happen in the next couple of weeks. You may or may not get a job, but once you do get a job, it may lead to so many different things. So that's a big difference between the 9-to-5 job and freelancing.
So I think there's a certain human need to not knowing what will happen. But at the same time, there's a certain human need for security and to certainty and knowing what was happening. And those two are balancing with each other.
I think there's a general belief that technology is making us less human. But I would like to challenge that. Could it be that technology is a tool that we will eventually use to become more free and more human again? Earlier in the episode, I mentioned 3 different kinds of digital nomads. So far, I've only been able to cover freelancing and a little bit of entrepreneurship. This is just the beginning, and these 3 interviews were the first ones to launch this project. So I'm gonna have to end this episode with an open ending. I guess what I do want to figure out is being a nomad something that is part of our human nature? Before we started farming 10,000 years ago, we were nomadic. We did not settle down. we can be free. I can be anywhere. Technology just enables us to work from wherever we want. So for now, I'm gonna have to end this episode like this. But before I leave, I would ask you to tell me what you think. See you later.